Hello and welcome to UFC Tonight, Mirror Fighting's quickfire run-through of tonight's lightweight title fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov against Justin Gaethje, Abu Dhabi, on Fight Island, UFC 254. Really in a fight that wasn't supposed to happen, if you like. Earlier this year, of course, Khabib was supposed to take on Tony Ferguson. He couldn't. Justin Gaethje stepped in at short notice and produced a quite scintillating, striking display to beat a man who was on a 12-fight win streak, upset the odds, win the interim belt, if you like those sort of things, but most importantly, setting up his shot at the champion, which is now here tonight. I'm Martin Domin, editor of Mirror Fighting. Please do give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. It is much appreciated. Now, plenty of talking points, and we'll start with yesterday's weigh-in. It's caused quite the stooshy Scottish word. Look it up. Khabib, he weighed in first, 6 a.m. UK time it was, 155 pounds on the limit. As you can see, he looked incredibly relieved, like a man who maybe wasn't quite sure if he would make it or not. Little thanks to God at the end as well. 2 points really to come out of it. One, the sort of conspiracy theory, if you like, that he didn't actually weigh 155 pounds. The UFC uses a mechanical scale. There's no digital display like you might get at boxing weigh-in, so you can't actually see what the weight is. Only the person operating the scale and then shouting out the number can see it. He needed a towel, so clearly he was cutting it fine. And there's some suggestion that it wasn't quite calibrated properly, that as soon as 155 was there, he's done, it's finished, great, move on. Listen, nobody can prove that was true. His camp, Khabib's camp, have said absolute nonsense. The other thing about the weigh-in, of course, is the fact that he seems to have had a tough weight cut, but that is no surprise for Khabib. He often has a tough weight cut. The question now is whether or not it will affect him tonight. Again, his coach, Javier Mendez, he said, no, his weight cut was the same as last time when he fought Dustin Poirier a year ago. Of course, it was tough, but that doesn't mean that it's going to affect him tonight. But when you just have to look at the visible signs. He just looked so relieved, but at the same time, he wasn't helped onto the scale. He wasn't helped off the scale. So perhaps it was just a tough weight cut. He's relieved to have made it. I can't forget that he has lost his dad this year. It's probably been not just a tough weight cut physically, but mentally as well. So until he gets in the cage tonight, until we see him, we won't know. But it does add that little bit of intrigue. Justin Gaethje made the weight 155 shortly afterwards. Absolutely fine. And the one talking point about Justin Gaethje, aside from what happens in the cage, for me really has been how he's dealt with being the interim champion. Now, I would argue there was no need for that belt to be on the line when he fought Tony Ferguson. Everybody knew it was an eliminator, if you like, to fight Khabib. He didn't need a belt to strap around the winner's waist as well. However, these things are now far more commonplace than they used to be. But when Dana White put it around Justin's waist, he kind of shrugged it off. And ever since then, that's been his approach. He's not particularly bothered about this belt because he knows it's not the belt. He's not the champion. And again, this week, after the press conference, Khabib had his belt around his shoulder. Justin Gaethje was given his belt, but quickly he was, I don't want this, get rid of it. And he pointed to Khabib's belt. That's the one I want. And I point it out because 13 months ago or so, Dustin Poirier was in the same position. He'd beaten Max Holloway, essentially, of course, a featherweight, to become the interim lightweight champion. And he was proud of that, rightly so. There's nothing to say he shouldn't be. But when I asked him before he fought Khabib, will you not feel like a champion until you actually are the champion? And he said, no, I am the champion. I'm the champion. He was quite, determined about it. I am the champion. But he wasn't the champion. You have to beat the man to be the man, as they say. And I kind of have liked Justin Gaethje's approach to this fight. He knows he's not the best lightweight in the world until he beats Khabib Nurmagomedov on Saturday night, if indeed he does that. Now, turning to the fight itself, if you imagine Khabib as like a wave machine, right, and you're trapped in this pool or in this river, however you want to imagine it, and the waves just keep coming, they're relentless, they keep coming, and just as you think you're getting your breath back and you getting your balance back and you're navigating these waves, he just comes again and he comes again. He is relentless. And eventually he pushes you back. You're trapped in the fight sense against the cage, as we saw with Conor McGregor, we saw with Dustin Poirier, and then that's it. It really is. The writing's on the wall, and he will move in. He'll finish the submission, and that's all she wrote. So there's no massive surprise about what you're going to get from Khabib in this fight. He's only had a few defenses, but he's 28-0. Are we really going to see anything else to his game? Probably not. Is he going to have turned into the world's best striker? Definitely not. So really the key in this fight for me is how Justin Gaethje handles it. And we've really seen an evolution in his game recently. Was always the brawler, always brought the fun and the excitement, but maybe didn't quite have that finesse. And then when he fought Tony Ferguson, that all changed, and his striking really was exemplary. And it just showed us a whole new side to him and suggested that he had another place to go, either when he wanted to, or his coach sort of realised you've got more to your game than just going out and brawling and being a sort of fan's favourite. So there's definitely a question around whether he's got more to offer, which will be a fascinating aspect of this fight. And then also, he's never really had to use his wrestling, but we don't forget, but we have to remember just how good a wrestler he is, or can be, and certainly was in his high school days. So that's going to be a fascinating factor as well. How can he use that to stifle Khabib in those early rounds, which everybody accepts are crucial? If Justin Gaethje can weather the storm, weather the takedowns, and then we get into the third and fourth rounds, and maybe Khabib, maybe that weight cut starts to have an impact, he starts to tire, and maybe then he's a little bit more susceptible to Justin Gaethje, to his striking. Another thing to look out for, the leg kicks from Justin Gaethje. If he can time them right, if he can target them right, they can be so effective. But at the same time, if he's just out with his timing, just out with his target, Khabib then can sense the opportunity to dive in. So it really is a fascinating fight in several different factors. Is that early pressure from Khabib going to be crucial? And listen, the thing is, if he does dominate as he's dominated for so many years, for 28 fights now, nobody will be surprised. They will absolutely hail that victory for what it is against the next best lightweight in the world right now. But it won't be a surprise. If Justin Gaethje comes through, if he pulls off the upset, sure, it will be an upset. You can see the odds. He is the underdog. But there'll also be a sense of, I'm not 100% surprised. He has his fans. He has his backers. And if Justin Gaethje pulls it off, well, all hell breaks loose, really, in the lightweight division. And suddenly it's just, everything is up for grabs. That is the main event. Fascinating. I do think he will come through ultimately. But I certainly think it'll be a far more fascinating fight than it was against Dustin Poirier and against Conor McGregor. Undoubtedly should be his toughest defence yet of his lightweight title. Just a couple of notes on the undercard. Jared Cannonier takes on Robert Whittaker in the co-main event. Really a vital fight in the middleweight division. The winner potentially could fight Israel Adesanya. I'm not sure if Whittaker will. He lost to the champion last year. Whether he'll get a rematch quite so quickly, I'm not so sure. Cannonier definitely, I think, would do. Adesanya called him out after his most recent win against Paulo Costa. And also, there is one Brit on the card. Nathaniel Wood takes on Casey Kenny. Actually, Nathaniel's second fight on Fight Island this summer. The fights, for viewers in the UK, thankfully, at a good time. Actually start 3 p.m. Fight Pass has the early prelims, and then 4 p.m. The prelims are on BT Sport 2 and also on BT Sport's YouTube channel. And then the main event at 7 p.m. on BT Sport Box Office 1999. So the main card, and then the main event probably around about 10 p.m. UK time, which is quite a relief after a summer of early mornings. Of course, Mirror Fighting will bring you all the latest on tonight's fights, and of course, early reaction tomorrow. I'll be back 11:30 with a first look at what happened and then what happens next. Please do enjoy the fights.